William Wordsworth lost two children, and his mother died when he was 8. His father died when he was 13, I think. Here's a poem about death. It's got all the resonance of the Gothic and the Romantic. A simple child that lightly draws its breath and feels its life in every limb, what should it know of death? I met a little cottage girl. She was 8 years old, she said. Her hair was thick with many a curl that clustered round her head. She had a rustic woodland air, and she was wildly clad. Her eyes were fair, and very fair. Her beauty made me glad. Sisters and brothers, little maid, how many may you be? How many? 7 in all, she said, and wondering, looked at me. And where are they, I pray you tell? She answered, 7 are we, and 2 of us at Conway dwell, and 2 are gone to sea. 2 of us in the churchyard lie, my sister and my brother, and in the churchyard's cottage I dwell near them with my mother. You say that 2 at Conway dwell, and 2 are gone to sea, yet ye are 7, I pray you tell, sweet maid, how this may be. Then did the little maid reply, 7 boys and girls are we, 2 of us in the churchyard lie beneath the churchyard tree. You run about, my little maid, your limbs, they are alive. If 2 are in the churchyard laid, then ye are only 5. Their graves are green, they may be seen, the little maid replied, 12 steps or more from my mother's door, and they are side by side. My stockings there I often knit, my kerchief there I hem, and there upon the ground I sit and sing a song to them. And often after sunset, sir, when it is light and fair, I take my little porringer and eat my supper there. The first that died was Sister Jane. In bed she moaning lay, till God released her of her pain, and then she went away. So, in the churchyard she was laid, and when the grass was dry, together round her grave we played, my brother John and I. And when the ground was white with snow, and I could run and slide, my brother John was forced to go, and he lies by her side. How many are you then, said I, if they 2 are in heaven? Quick was the little maid's replied, Oh, master, we're 7. But they are dead, those 2 are dead, their spirits are in heaven. The little maid would have her will, and said, Nay, we are 7. So the little maid, this innocent little girl, and Wordsworth goes out of his way to stress her innocence and her youth. Notice at the beginning he calls her it. It was customary in Victorian England to refer to children as it. This is contrasted. Her simple, childlike youth is contrasted with the idea of authority and logic, the master, sir. And this is a debate, it's a discussion. And it's given a sort of ballad form. It's very simple with a rhyming da-da-da-da-da-da. It's in iambic meter, so it's the rhythm of speaking. And it's deceptively simple. But the little girl simply will not give way. She insists again and again that there are 7 in her family. And this includes the 2 dead siblings. And more than that, and this is the hint of the Gothic, she goes to the grave, she sits on the grave, she does her knitting, she hems her handkerchief, and she talks to her brothers and sister. And there's a line there which is perhaps the most important line in the poem. On the one hand, it starts, the stanza starts, "Their graves are green, they may be seen." It's that stanza. So the idea the graves are green, this is about spring. This is about if the sister died in the winter, which is the time when things die, spring gives life, and the graves are green, and therefore they are alive. But this is the line, and they are side by side. They're side by side with each other, but they are also side by side with the little maid and her mother, who live in the house right next to the graveyard. So this is, why is this a Gothic poem? Because this is dealing directly with death. And why is it a romantic poem? Because it's dealing directly with nature. So it fits into the two categories, the Gothic and the romantic. And because it's so simple, because it's so simply presented, it's very, very accessible. And there's so much one can write about it. The idea that life is unlimited, that life doesn't stop at death. It continues. It just transforms like nature is transformed at death. Like the grass stops growing and then comes back again, much greener than before. The trees may lose their leaves, but they come back again in the spring. And the master, the Sir, tries to suggest that death severs people from life. Death doesn't. Death simply is part of that cycle. The dead are connected to the living. And again, to try and emphasize it, look at the last stanza where the master, this logician, says, "But they are dead. Those two are dead. Their spirits are in heaven." He's sort of euphemistically using the language that would suggest that they are absolutely dead. It was throwing words away. The words were meaningless to her. For still, and still and will rhyming, emphasizing that idea. For still, the little maid would have her will, and said, "Nay, no, we are 7." And that's the despite the fact that she is presented as somebody who is young, rural, from the countryside, rustic, uneducated, with tousled, dishevelled hair. She's not part of that urbane, civilized, industrial city world. She's not part of the educated elite. And here she is having a discussion with somebody who is presented really as a scientist. It's science versus nature. And nature, in so many works in the Romantic and the Gothic tradition, is presented as innocent, as childlike, and as completely triumphant, as completely winning. Nature always wins because nature just keeps pushing through. It doesn't change, and the little girl is not going to change, no matter what logic, no matter what arguments are presented to her. And this is a poem written in 1798, and it was published in a group of poems, together with some poems by Coleridge, called the Lyrical Ballads. So the key is emotion versus logic, and that is it. One of the Wordsworth poems. Do follow the channel, and I'll try and do some more poems in the next few days.